quite bad for flitting between cases, notoriously bad for it in fact. And I keep changing modules up all the time, and then I never actually get any music made. And even though part of the enjoyment is changing up modules, you want to make some music as well, or certainly I do. So to remedy it, I'm going to stick to just a sequencer and a voice in the 32 HP case for a month, 6 weeks, and try and make as much music as possible with that. I'm going to use a couple of pedals as well, I think. I want to keep the setup small, and I want to keep it quite instantaneous. Great word, that, innit? But also what I wanted to look at, because I appreciate I also love wasting loads of money, and not everybody does. I want to look at another small case like we've done in the past, but this time with just the sequencer and the voice, and see if we can get one together for under 500 quid. Right, I'll get the modules in the case and then I'll show you what I've got. The best thing about modular is being able to change your modules. But the worst thing about modular is changing your friggin' modules. Things that make it a bit easier though, shrouded headers. These things are a godsend. One thing I do hate though, sliding nuts. Even though admittedly it is quite fun to say nuts. Last one, and naturally the nut goes missing, can't access it, but I'm not going to fight with it because I can't be bothered. Ta-da! So this is what I've just put in the case. It's basically the Stochastic Instruments SIG, or the Inspiration Generator, which is my favourite sequencer. I've got a podcast episode of Eurorack where I'm talking to Finn, who's the guy behind this. Amazing guy, really, really great. I'd recommend you check that out if you're into that sort of thing. And then I've got the Surface in there by Qubit. Qubit are also one of my favourite modular manufacturers. I've never told them that. I have bought all this, by the way. None of this was given to me. But I will say I've become friends with Finn since sort of speaking to him before. But he hasn't asked me to make this. It's genuinely just is my favourite sequencer. Like I say, Qubit, I've got no affiliation with them whatsoever. I'd like to though, if anyone wants to put me in touch with them. And then the Polyend Anywhere, which I use all the time as people know. I don't tend to include this or the case in any of the pricing like we spoke about in the past. You can make a case for next to nothing. If you've seen my other videos, we spoke about that. The Polyend Anywhere is discontinued, so you can't buy that. There's some really cheap options. I do always say don't skimp on power because, you know, you don't want to fry any modules. Weirdly, this price has gone up when I've just gone back onto this, and actually I don't think that's a true reflection. These are both about $275. I think that, you know, between the two of the modules you'll pay about $550. But these are, you know, quite feature heavy, and you could do it for a lot cheaper. So let's have a look and see if we can do that quickly. Sequencers are all quite expensive. Something like a Music Thing modular Turing machine, if you just after generative sequencing, you can use something like this. Obviously you've got a scale key on it as well, so it will quantize it, and that's only $100, which is obviously way less than £100. I mean, if your budget's 500 quid, you could go a little bit more. You could get something, you know, really popular. Your options are pretty endless with that. A clone's always a good shout. They usually put more CV options on there as well. If you wanted another physical modelling voice like this, you could always go for something like the Rings, or one of the cheaper versions, like I say, one of the clones. It's technically a resonator, not a synth voice, but you could go for that. Or the Knit, which is a plats or plates, depending on if you care enough to learn how to pronounce that. Then you could go for one of them as well. And obviously you'd be well under 500 quid at that. Patch him. I'll put CV out. More proactive in. Trigger out. To trigger him. Simple as that. So it's all together. It's patched up. I'm going to make some music with it. Obviously, you could put a version together for under £500, like I say. Before we make some music, though, I hold in my hand the first ever copy of my new zine, which is called Unpatched. And it's an ambient and Eurorack zine. Look, it says that there. And it's actually got this little setup that we're going to be using drawn on the front of it. That's just a draft. I've just got one printed to see how it looks. I'm quite impressed by it, actually. I'm quite happy with it. I wanted to put something together that I could sell to you. But more than that, I also thought it would be quite good for the community. It'll stop us all just mindlessly scrolling through Instagram and devaluing our art a little bit. I wanted to put something together that I could include people within this community who are making ambient music and who are making music with modular. Just create something tangible that you can hold. It sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But I'm quite proud of it. So I'm going to leave some links below. I'm taking pre-orders now ready for January. And it's going to be available through my Patreon and potentially through Bandcamp as well. So So you can either buy it one-off or you can subscribe to it every month. It's going to also be available digital or, like I say, something tangible, a hard copy. And obviously the digital one will be cheaper and more accessible, I guess. Anyway, I'm going to make some music now and shut up. Just selling things to you.